According to the Global Financial Integrity Report of 2018, Uganda every year stands to lose over 1 billion US dollars, and that is in illicit financial flows and other associated crimes related to that. Now, it brings a question on how much we would use that money for if actually we would block all those leakages and try to meet these fires before it deters us from the different SDGs. That is our discussion for today. We're going to be linking that to smuggling and other challenges that we still are facing that are deterring us from generating enough revenue locally in terms of taxation, in terms of the different aspects. And we're going to be drawing recommendations. We're going to be drawing and trying to shed a light on actually who are the players that need to mitigate or need to sit on a dialogue or need to find solution to this vice. And here with me is Aloysius Kittengo from SEATINI. He's going to be weighing in on this matter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Smart TV, for giving us the opportunity to talk to you and to share with the listeners about the challenges, but also issues related to taxes and illicit financial flows.
All right. Let's begin with you unpacking that term. It is ambiguous, you want to think. What we stand to mean when we speak of illicit financial flows?
Illicit financial flows, this in terms, it has been looked at as the money illegally earned, illegally transferred, and illegally used. You find that due to the fact that Uganda as a country, we are looking at attracting more of foreign direct investments into the country, and we are yearning to bring them to work in Uganda. We open up a lot to the extent that we are giving them tax incentives, tax exemptions, but also them using the opportunity of understanding our tax rules and regulations, especially the domestic laws, but they are more benefiting from the double taxation agreements which we have between Uganda and other countries. So you find that they use that channel to lower their tax obligation within Uganda using the double taxation agreements. But also you find that we are looking at the international trade in general. Members are trying to use those channels to illicitly take away the finances from Uganda. When you look at the illicit financial flows, we have what they call the economic activities that are facilitating illicit financial flows. For instance, there is what they call mispricing of a commodity. Like if a commodity is coming from China, someone can give it a price which is lower or higher than what is expected at the customs, so that this person lowers his tax obligation at the customs. And in the end, when he reaches the market, he's going to sell that commodity higher.
Having paid lowly in terms of tax.
Yes, in terms of taxes, and you get more profits from the commodity.
Isn't that cheating?
Yeah, it is. That's why it is illicit. It is illegal. Illicit means illegal way of transferring your finances. There are different ways of transferring the money. It can be in kind, it can be in money itself. So you find that someone may just buy a car and he just wants to transfer his finances using the car after earning that money illegally. For instance, if it is from Kenya, someone can just buy a car from Kenya, and because the money is illegal in terms of, it can be money laundering, it can be just selling an unacceptable good in Kenya, and the way you can transfer your money is buying a commodity which you can sell in Uganda in kind, but when you are just cleaning your money to enter into the country. We have also what they call the criminal activities, and that's where we are going to look at the issues of smuggling, which is rampant at the East African Community member states, Uganda inclusive. But looking at the illicit financial flows in general, in total, when you look at what the Mbeki report, the High the high-level panel report on illicit financial flows, which was conducted by, chaired by the Thabo Mbeki. It indicates that Africa as a country, we are losing around 1 trillion US dollar, amounting to 50 billion US dollars through illicit financial flows in total. But that is just an estimate, because when you look at the practice being illegal, it means that you don't have the
Actual documentation
of what is going on, what is being traded. So it is just an estimate. Yes, it could be more than that. And the question is, can we allow that total amount in its huge capacity to be lost by these countries like Africa in general, which is still poor in terms of development, but also in terms of generating the revenue required to finance the developmental objectives, the developmental needs of the people, provision of social services. So you find that we are losing a lot under illicit financial flow, because when you look at what the Global Integrity is looking at Uganda's estimated illicit financial flow impact on our domestic revenue, they are trying to estimate about 2 trillion shillings being lost as a result of illicit financial flows. And when you go ahead to look at what we are losing and what we are supposed to pay in terms of providing the services to the people, but also in terms of the debt we are incurring as Uganda, it makes us feel like we need to engage more on the issues of illicit financial flow, so that we can curb that vice and try to at least get more revenue from the activities that...
Because we keep registering a tax deficit, and yet we have all these illicit flows. We have all these taps through which money keeps going out and in without our watch.
Of course. And that's why we as SEATINI Uganda, I didn't talk about the organization in general, we are trying to dialogue, debate, provide alternatives to see that this vice of illicit financial flow is checked. But at the end of the day, when you look at what is happening, some of the facilitators of illicit financial flows in general, you find that the first facilitator is the tax administration, which is URA, but also even the custom. Yes, you can say, someone can say they are not, but at the end of the day they are. There are a number of reasons as to why they are supposed to be the key players in curbing or controlling illicit financial flows from Uganda. Because they are answerable with their customer authority members. But they might say that yes, it is, because URA is supposed to do a lot of work. But when you look at their personnel, in terms of the number, they cannot man illicit activities that are taking place in Uganda, but also even across the borders. But also even you can look at the issue of capacity required to effectively manage or control the illicit activities that are taking place, both in terms of man, but also in terms of technology and capacity to understand how this activity is taking place. So you find that they have their own challenges, but also there are other challenges that are facilitating, like the porousness of the borders. Also facilitate, especially like smuggling, which is taking place in Uganda, like smuggling of, you have heard of cosmetics, smuggling of beer across Uganda and Kenya, smuggling of wildlife, smuggling of drugs. So you find that their capacity to manage the activity of smuggling, the activity of curbing the entire practice is wanting, and they have to look into that one, especially the Minister of Finance, that how can we ensure that apart from increasing the rates on the existing taxable items, how can we enlarge our tax base? Because there are alternatives that are not yet being brought into the taxable net of Uganda. So illicit financial flows impact a lot on our domestic revenue mobilization in Uganda. When you look at the the aspect of smuggling, see, this is, according to URA, they try to look at it in the way that it is the importation, the unlawful importation and exportation of goods.
So you can smuggle in or you smuggle out?
Smuggle out of goods just with the intention of avoiding the taxes. You try to smuggle because you don't want to pay the taxes. But also there are varying drivers that makes people to smuggle across the region. And one of the reasons as to why some people smuggle, for instance, the smuggling of beer between Uganda and Kenya is happening a lot because there is that price difference between the cost of purchasing a bottle of beer in Uganda and the cost of purchasing a bottle of beer in Kenya. It is cheaper for the Kenyans to consume a beer coming from Uganda if it is smuggled, because our price is a bit lower compared to the Kenyan price. So that makes the people from Kenya to smuggle beer from Uganda
and take it into their country,
Kenya, so that the people can get more money from it. But also even it makes them easier for them not to pay taxes, because if you smuggle, if you're not caught, it means that you're going to get a lot. You understand? And that is one of the drivers of smuggling. People are looking at how do I maximize the profit from this item or from this good. So at the end of the day, there are a number of issues, and I think that's where I'm trying to give the reason, but also trying to recommend some at least practices. And when you look at the price difference, in one way or the other, when you look at the East African Community Protocol, there is what they call the common market, there is what they call the monetary union protocol, which is seeking at least to have a uniform currency. But if we don't have a uniform currency, when it comes to the differences in prices, that we cannot control.
So you think having a uniform currency will try to reduce the VAT?
One way or the other, because if you're going to buy a bottle of beer at 3,500 in Uganda, and it is the same price in Kenya, it means that you don't need even to engage in smuggling of that item, only if you have just swindled it from the factory. So in one way or the other, East African countries, but also Uganda in particular, they need to look at if we harmonize custom, the East African common currency, can we have a uniform playground when it comes to issues of smuggling? But also when you look at smuggling in particular, is happening due to the porousness of our borders across Uganda and Kenya and other neighboring countries, which makes it easier for the people to run. And this is in the two-way, because the porousness also is being facilitated by the can I call it poor monitoring by the tax authorities to see that they curb that vice across the borders, because not all the time that you are supposed to have all the manpowers coming from URA. You can have even people who are on the ground who can act as spies. Yes, who can act as spies and say.
It could be security operatives.
When you look at this region or this area or this district, people are smuggling like beer or sugar from Uganda. How can we handle this vice together? Because it reduces even on the local government revenue in one way or the other at the end. So if there is that connection between the revenue authorities and the customs, they can be able to control on the smuggling of goods across the borders, especially among the community members where this action is taking place.
Okay, but when you talk about the East African community as a whole, we are trying to emphasize the common market, you know, easy movement of goods, persons, labor and all. So we expect that the whole boundary restrictions will be eased down. In the ideal, that would be the ideal. Now, aren't we, again, eating our own words? Because if we see that this will pose a challenge, what will happen in that aspect?
Posing a challenge on what?
If we have free entry of persons within the East African community, will that be a good thing or will it be in danger and promoting illicit financial flows?
Actually, when you look at the protocol as it is, it gives the free movement of workers across.
Yes.
Actually, the free movement of people has been there before, even before the protocol was put in place or amended or agreed, because it was there before they came to look at it. The free movement of workers and the free movement of goods has been there before the regulation came into force. So the free movement of people is not a problem, provided there are regulation, because you cannot work in Kenya without a permit. But provided you have a permit to go to Tanzania, it should be free for someone to go and work. Though there are other things that are supposed to be looked at, because the members agreed on who is supposed to come to our country. There's supposed to be a need for a given service to be there. You understand? And I think one of the reasons as to why the first East African community collapsed was due to the fact that members were trading the same goods, which is not good. But if you're trading the same goods, who is going to get what you are buying or what you are selling? Yeah, the competition will be high. And when you look at the price difference, it's going to cause smuggling across the borders at the end. You understand? So we have to understand the ongoing regulations, first of all, we the people who are doing trade in between. But also when you look at another issue which is causing smuggling across the East African community is the lack of tax harmonization across the East African community members. Apart from the common external tariff,
on personal factors to determine the tax laws that we move on with or we transact with.
Yes, and yet there is some arrangement where they say we are going to use the dollars at the end of the day, that this amount of money, this amount of commodity, if it reaches this dollar amount, that's how we are going to be trading in between the member countries. But at the end of the day, when you look at the differences in the taxes, it makes people to feel like they have to smuggle. And when you look critically, most of the commodities that are being smuggled in Uganda, they are excisable goods. I don't know if you understand the concept of, they are excisable goods.
That are liable to excise duty, you mean?
Because they are excisable because they are categorized under the excisable good, like beer, like tobacco or cigarettes, like cosmetics. So you find that due to the higher demand for a particular good in a given country, like Uganda in particular, when it comes to like smuggling of cosmetics, you call them what these women used to highlight to beauten themselves. So yes, so you find that because there is a higher demand for the good and the higher taxes on that particular commodity, it makes it difficult for someone who is trading.
So is this a policy gap or it is just a challenge as it is?
It is a challenge in one way or the other. It can be a policy issue in one way or the other. Because when you look at our exercisable or the excise duty, it's trying to curb on the unwanted or goods that have harm.
Yes.
On people,
so that will reduce consumption.
Yes, or even on the environment, like the polythene bags. There is a high amount of tax on it. When it comes to cigarettes, there is a high amount of tax on it. But even if the Uganda Revenue Authority tries to increase, as they try to increase on the tax rates of a particular goods, you find that it is the same good which is being highly smuggled across the borders.
It's quite interesting. It poses really many challenges, policy gaps, also the disharmony, like you said. But we're going to take a quick break. When we do return, we're going to weigh in so much in the policy gaps, highlight some of those that are a contributing factor or are facilitating for smuggling or other forms of illicit financial flows.